Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer. As you just saw, Savannah is on assignment at the Olympics. We're going to begin this hour with the latest developments on the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. The mother of our NBC News colleague has now been missing for more than 2 weeks. Yesterday, the Pima County Sheriff took the step of officially ruling out the Guthrie family as suspects, calling any suggestion to the contrary, quote, cruel. Now investigators are waiting to see if DNA from a glove that was found just a couple miles from Nancy's home could be linked to the person seen here on Nancy's surveillance camera. This footage was captured the night authorities say she was abducted. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz has the latest from Tucson.
More than 2 weeks into the search for Nancy Guthrie, the Pima County Sheriff, for the first time, point blank ruling out any of the Guthrie family members, including siblings and spouses, as possible suspects, saying to suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. The Guthrie family are victims, plain and simple. As the search drags on, investigators zeroing in on a single piece of evidence found 2 miles from Nancy's home. A discarded glove, the FBI says, contains unknown male DNA. A person familiar with the matter says unlike the other 15 gloves found in the search area, this one is consistent with the one seen on the suspect in the surveillance video. But how relevant it will be is unclear. No female DNA was found.
I think we need to use a lot of caution about jumping to conclusions with the glove. If there were other aspects of that glove that tied it to either Nancy or someone who's already been looked at as a person of interest, then it would raise very quickly in priority. But at this point, it's more like a Hail Mary.
Still, the FBI says they're putting the DNA from the glove into their national database. Another question, the suspect's clothes, like the mask and zip-up jacket.
The sheriff says it's possible that, like the suspect's backpack, the clothes were also purchased at a Walmart. He says they're currently working with Walmart management to determine who, if anyone, bought all or some of those items.
The sheriff is also hoping even more video could be retrieved from the other Nest cameras on Nancy's property.
You're working with the tech companies still?
And yeah, we've asked them, and they're working as best they can.
Google, which owns Nest, has not responded to NBC News' request for comment about if they're working to recover more. President Trump weighing in on the case again, saying hopefully there will be a positive result. And in an interview with the New York Post, when asked if the DOJ would request the death penalty if Nancy is not returned alive, saying, yeah, that's true. This, as Savannah says her family is not giving up hope, pleading with her mother's captor.
It is never too late to do the right thing.
And the sheriff tells me that his investigators are actively working on that DNA sample that was taken from the home. They'd previously said it was not Nancy's DNA or someone close to her. So the big question is, who does it belong to, and is it a match for the glove or any potential suspect? Back to you.
All right, Liz Kreutz, thank you. In another development, a federal law enforcement official told NBC News last night that agents conducted a canvass of local gun stores several days ago as part of the investigation. It comes as the sheriff's office and FBI say they have fielded around 40 to 50,000 leads in the case. For more, let's bring in NBC News law enforcement analyst Jim Kavanaugh. Jim, good to have you with us. We know the family has been cooperative in this investigation from the very start. How unusual is it for the sheriff to have to come out and just publicly clear them of any wrongdoing?
I think it's important, Joe, because I think the family's just being, tortured by people on the internet claiming that they're involved. It's just unseemly, and the sheriff just wanted to put an end to it. Look, people come up all the time. Of course, close family members, whenever there's a missing person case or disappearance or abduction, murder, whatever, you're going to have to look at those leads. But a lot of times they're very easy to check out. You can check out the camera at the home of the family. And there's the family coming and going, just like they said they did at a certain time, and they never left the house. Well, it's not them. And so I think the sheriff is right. He's just trying to give them a little peace. People are wildly speculating. They don't have any kind of experience or analysis to say those things. It's wrong. It's not the family. The sheriff and the FBI are not looking hard at the family. They've probably done their due diligence, and they're not concerned about that.
Yeah, we mentioned how so many people who are not mainstream journalists have descended on Tucson and are covering this and don't necessarily go by the same standards that we go by here in reporting. Jim, I also want to ask you about some of the evidence here. We heard the genetic expert C.C. Moore in Liz's story call the DNA on the glove that was found more of a Hail Mary. What do you think about that? In your view, what are the strongest leads law enforcement can follow right now?
Right. I mean, everybody gets excited about that. It's something to report for sure. It's something to collect and something to analyze. But it's just a lead. It's just a lead. A rubber glove could have been thrown by any workman anywhere. It's a mile or 2 miles from the house. We don't even know the way that the abductors egressed the location. So we don't even know if it's on the route. It's just a lead. It's a long shot lead. Now, as Liz reported in her package there, if the DNA on the glove matched DNA in the house, now you have a significant thing here, and it can be also, either way, it can be put into CODIS, which is the Combined DNA Identification System database, and if someone's in there, and there's only, people have been convicted of crimes, sent to prison, many states submit to that database. So a small percentage of people, but people with criminal records, and that just means you interview the person. It doesn't mean they're the abductor. It just means you interview the person. We found this glove, your DNA's on it. Were you involved in this? Because it could be somebody totally not involved. So best leads, pressing on all fronts. You just reported on it. Gun shop leads. Did you see a gun like this, a holster like this? Did you ever see these guys? And then, the neighbors, the Nest cameras, digging that out, the DNA on the gloves, fanning out. More and more video, get more and more, because you can link the cars coming and going. So they have a lot to work on here. It's still fresh. It's only 2 weeks. It feels like 2 years because we're all agonizing for Nancy, but it's still pretty fresh. And witnesses' minds can be fresh here, too.
Jim Kavanaugh, good to have you with us. Thanks for your expertise, as always. Civil rights icon and former Democratic presidential candidate, the Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. has died. He was 84 years old. His family says Jackson died peacefully earlier this morning. In a statement, they wrote, quote, "Our father was a servant leader, not only to our family, but to the oppressed, the voiceless, and the overlooked around the world. His unwavering belief in justice, equality, and love uplifted millions, and we ask you to honor his memory by continuing the fight for the values he lived by." Today, co-anchor Craig Melvin has a look back at his life.
Legendary civil rights leader, Reverend Jesse Jackson, dying at the age of 84.
I'm human. I am God's child.
After decades in the public eye, watching a country change as much as he did, Jackson, born in 1941 in Greenville, South Carolina, was a young protege of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., his life changing when King was gunned down in Memphis. Jackson, literally, there by his side.
It sounded like a stick of dynamite or a large firecracker. And when we turned, all we could see was police coming. Police were coming from the direction of the shot. They had been lined up along the streets.
It fell to Jesse Jackson and a small group of others to help keep the civil rights movement alive. The Baptist preacher known for his stirring speeches.
Repeat this. I am somebody.
Becoming a voice of the people.
Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Jackson made Chicago his base of operation, starting what became the Rainbow Push Coalition, urging companies and politicians to improve opportunities for minorities. And he had his own political ambitions, launching a bid for president in 1984. The campaign marking the first time a national party had a major African-American contender. But the campaign was derailed when Jackson admitted using an anti-Semitic slur in a private conversation to describe New York City and Jews who live there.
However innocent and unintended, it was insensitive and wrong.
His apology at a New Hampshire synagogue helped him climb out of a deep political hole. He didn't win the nomination, but came closer after another run in 1988.
My right and my privilege to stand here before you has been won in my lifetime by the blood and the sweat of the innocent.
20 years later, a visibly emotional Jackson witnessing America elect its first black president, Barack Obama, a fellow Chicagoan. Over the years, Jackson used his considerable leverage as a statesman here at home to draw headlines around the world, joining the fight to end apartheid in South Africa, winning freedom for Americans held captive overseas, telling Today in 1999 he was always conscious of Dr. King's legacy.
The dream continues and the struggle continues, but every now and then we see flashes of hope. Inclusion leads to growth, and when there is growth, everybody wins.
In later years, Jackson facing multiple health issues, diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2017, hospitalized with COVID in 2021. But he remained involved in politics, leading Get Out the Vote efforts. And in 2024, he was honored at the Democratic National Convention. Applause for a civil rights icon who dedicated his life to keeping hope alive. Craig Melvin, NBC News.
In other news, in Rhode Island, police are investigating the motive behind a deadly shooting at a high school hockey game. Authorities say 2 people were killed after a shooter opened fire while players were on the ice yesterday afternoon. Authorities say the shooter is also dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Overnight, police identified the suspect as Robert Dorgan, who they say also went by Roberta Esposito. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda is in Pawtucket, where this all unfolded.
Tragedy on the ice.
We have shots fired, multiple people down at the Rich Arena.
A shooter opening fire at a high school hockey game in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, killing 2 and injuring 3 others, according to police. The chaos unfolding with players still on the ice, people in the stands scrambling to safety.
It appears that this was a targeted event, that it may be a family dispute.
Police say it appears the suspect died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but the investigation is ongoing. A massive police presence seen sprawled across the parking lot, taped off, as a crowd gathered in the back lot near a school bus. Hockey sticks and skates in tow, some still in hockey jerseys. It was senior night.
This was an isolated incident in some ways. It's tragic.
The teams with players from multiple schools were playing at Dennis M. Lynch Arena, about 5 miles north of Providence. A community still reeling from a shooting that killed 2 students and 9 others at Brown University in December. 18-year-old Kevin Hernandez lives nearby.
It's so devastating, you know, to hear about something so similar happened 2 months ago over at Brown, and now some place that I pass by every day.
The Providence Bruins posting, "Our thoughts are with all those affected by the tragic events at the high school hockey game, leaving this close-knit community rattled."
All right, thanks to Emily for that report. Pawtucket police say that they have not had any previous run-ins with the suspect, who was at the game to watch a family member. Authorities also say the 3 people who were injured in the shooting are in critical condition at a hospital this morning. U.S. officials are taking part in dual negotiations today, both with far-reaching foreign policy implications. In Geneva, American diplomats are meeting with Iranian officials for a second round of nuclear negotiations. In that same Swiss city, negotiators will also try to mediate a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr joins us with more on these high-stakes meetings. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. The Trump administration taking on big challenges today on these 2 long-standing disputes. Iran heads to the table following intense protests that some analysts believe weaken its position.
The Trump administration turning to foreign policy today with separate high-level negotiations in Geneva, Switzerland, on Iran's nuclear program and Russia's war on Ukraine. President Trump saying he'll be indirectly involved in the Iran talks.
I don't think they want the consequences of not making a deal. They want to make a deal.
The president sending a second U.S. aircraft carrier to the region ahead of the talks, ramping up the pressure on Iran to curb its nuclear program, as Iranian officials signal some flexibility in exchange for sanctions relief. The U.S. military buildup in the region follows Iran's violent crackdown last month on sweeping protests. President Trump asked Friday about regime change in Iran.
Seems like that would be the best thing that could happen.
He's also referenced last year's U.S.-Israeli bombing campaign that badly damaged Iran's nuclear infrastructure, suggesting further military action is on the table without a deal. In retaliation for any attack, Iran has threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz, choking off a critical global oil pathway. All as top Trump envoys tackle a separate challenge today, mediating negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. Whether Ukraine will have to give up territory remains a central sticking point, closing in on the 4-year mark of Russia's full-scale invasion. Ukraine's president urging allies to help force Russia to peace, as President Trump called on Ukraine to come to the table fast.
And back on Iran, officials there have said they won't entirely give up enriching uranium, which they claim is not intended for a nuclear weapon. That, though, likely to be a hard line for U.S. negotiators. The top Iranian diplomat did meet Monday with the head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog to talk possible cooperation. Joe?
All right, Alice, thank you so much. Florida Republican Congressman Randy Fine is facing major backlash over Islamophobic comments he made on social media. Posting on X, Fine suggested that he would choose dogs over Muslims. Democrats and Islamic civil rights groups are condemning the comments and calling for Fine to resign. Since taking office less than a year ago, Fine has made a series of offensive anti-Muslim and anti-Palestinian comments, but he has not been censured by Congress. NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz joins us now to talk more about this and some other political headlines. So, Megan, as we mentioned, Fine does have a history of anti-Muslim rhetoric. Just what can you tell us about this latest comment and the reaction it's getting from lawmakers? Is he likely to face any repercussions from Congress?
Yeah, good morning. So he's facing backlash for that comment that, as you mentioned, basically implies that he would choose dogs over Muslims. He wrote in a post, if they force us to choose, the choice between dogs and Muslims is not a difficult one. Now, he's facing a lot of backlash from Democrats who are urging him to resign now. And, you know, they're calling on him to resign. Take a look at what some of them had to say. Governor Gavin Newsom wrote, "Resign now, you racist slob." We heard from Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who called it genuinely one of the most disgusting comments I have ever seen issued by an American official. Representative Robert Garcia called it disgusting Islamophobia and dangerous bigotry. Now, it's hard to say whether he would actually face some sort of repercussions. The House is out of session this week, but we are expecting to continue to follow this to see what potential fallout could ultimately come from this. But in terms of actually seeing him resign, that seems unlikely at the moment right now, Joe.
All right, more to come on this, most definitely. Let's get to some other headlines. Looks like the federal government's stepping in to try and protect the Potomac River following a major sewage spill last month. Tell us what steps are being taken here.
Yeah, so President Trump said in a post to Truth Social that he was directing federal authorities to step in to help protect the Potomac. This is after a Maryland sewer line collapsed in January, leading to millions of gallons of wastewater spilling into the Potomac. So he said in a post to Truth Social that he was directing federal authorities to immediately provide all necessary management, direction, and coordination to protect the Potomac. In that same post to Truth Social, he cast blame for the situation on Maryland Governor Wes Moore. Take a listen to what he had to say later that day.
I don't like the job that Wes Moore is doing. I don't like the job he's doing at the bridge. I don't like the fact that he did that horrible, with the pipes in the Potomac, and he's not doing the job. They got to do it, and I'm going to have to get the federal government involved in getting it fixed because he can't fix anything.
Now, a spokesperson for the governor fired back, saying that it was the federal government that was supposed to be responsible for that sewer line. That spokesperson for the governor also criticizing the administration, basically accusing the administration of shirking responsibility when it comes to this leak here, Joe.
All right, from bridges to tunnels, we know President Trump appears to be downplaying some reporting by NBC News and others last week that in exchange for releasing federal funding for a new tunnel between New York and New Jersey, he wanted New York's Penn Station renamed after himself. He also repeated his opposition to the Hudson River Tunnel project. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, so this was in a post to Truth Social where he reiterated his criticism of this tunnel project between New York and New Jersey, saying in that post that the government should not be responsible for any cost overruns. Now, he's criticized this project in the past. In this post to Truth Social, he said that the government was willing to meet to make sure that these cost overruns did not happen. Now, as you mentioned, he said that the idea of renaming Penn Station was not raised by him. He said it was raised by others. It comes after NBC has previously reported that President Trump has asked Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to support renaming Penn Station in exchange for the federal government releasing these funds, Joe.
All right, Megan, thank you so much. In Georgia, the trial is now underway for the father of an alleged school shooter who prosecutors are trying to hold responsible for his son's actions. Colin Gray faces several felony charges in connection to the deadly shooting at Appalachian High School back in 2024. Prosecutors accuse Colin of giving his son, Colt Gray, an AR-style rifle that he used in the attack. 2 students and 2 teachers were killed. If convicted, Colin Gray could face up to 180 years in prison. NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist has the latest.
Prosecutors in Georgia making their case against the father of accused Appalachian High School shooter Colt Gray.
This is not a case about holding parents accountable for what their children do. This case is about this defendant and his actions.
The Barrow County District Attorney saying Colin Gray disregarded warning signs that his son would harm others, rising to a level of criminal negligence that led to the deaths of 2 students and 2 teachers.
7 months after he was told by Jackson County Sheriff's Office of possible school shooter threats and being asked to restrict Colt's access to guns, the defendant buys and gives 13-year-old Colt that Sig Sauer M400 as his Christmas present.
Prosecutors say Colt came to school with the AR-style rifle his father gifted him in his backpack wrapped in poster board. In opening arguments saying Colin knew his son had a history of anxiety, anger, and violence, and referenced this interview about threats of school violence with police in another county captured on body cam in 2023.
This is some serious stuff. I got no choice but to take it to work right now. But like I was telling your dad, if we find out otherwise, man, it's a different story, okay?
It's a really different story.
And pointing to texts Colt sent his father just weeks before the shooting.
He sends this text message to the defendant. Whenever something happens, just know the blood is on your hands.
Gray's defense attorney trying to open the door to reasonable doubt, saying the accused shooter was deceptive and hid his plans from his family.
The evidence will show a teenager who is struggling mentally, a teenager who is deceptive, a teenager who hid his true intentions from everyone.
Colin Gray's trial comes 2 years after James and Jennifer Crumbly were convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Their son pleaded guilty to killing 4 at his Michigan high school in 2021. Colt Gray doesn't have a trial date yet. His father's trial is expected to last about 3 weeks.
And our thanks to Aaron Gilchrist for that report. Let's get a check now on your morning News Now weather. Those storms out west aren't letting up just yet. NBC meteorologist Melissa McGee is tracking everything for us. Melissa, good morning.
And good morning, everyone. That West Coast wallop does continue. That potent storm will continue to impact much of the West Coast. Intense rain, wind, and very heavy mountain snow will be on the way. As we head out on our Wednesday, that heavy snow will expand across the Great Basin into the Rockies, and some rain and additional snow showers will linger into California. As we move into our Thursday, there is another surge of moisture that takes aim at the West Coast. So more rain, wind, and snow, not only for California, but Washington as well. In terms of additional rainfall, we are anticipating right along the coast. We could find anywhere from 1 inch to about 2 inches of rainfall. As we head inland across the higher elevation, we could find anywhere from 2 to 3 inches of rain on top of what we've already seen. Now let's talk about that cold air and that snow. Sierra Nevada, locally, we could find 5 to 8 feet of snow, and this is going to be the forecast right through tomorrow. Now let's talk about that northern tier snow. stationary front will bring rain and snow across the northern plains and warm winds from the northern plains up to the Midwest. This area of low pressure will continue to work its way to the east, impacting the upper Midwest, and that snow will expand across central New England. So how much are we talking about? We could find for upstate New York as well as central New England anywhere from 4 to about 5 inches of snow right through tomorrow. Potential records are possible across much of the High Plains. I want to show you some of these numbers. For Dallas today, 77 degrees by Wednesday. You're up to 80. Fort Smith, 70s for you on your Tuesday, upper 70s by Thursday, and that warmth will continue to expand and spread into the Midwest. We've got 72 for St. Louis on Thursday. Chicago up to 59, but look at Nashville, Tennessee. Tuesday, 69, and once we head into Thursday, we'll have temperatures in the middle and upper 70s for daytime highs. That is a look at your national weather. Now back to you.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.